The IMF has issued a new warning against using cryptocurrency as a national currency. As Bitcoin gains traction around the world, financial officials step up their efforts to safeguard the world's financial system. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, issued a warning, stating that utilizing cryptocurrency as national money would be a step too far. Personally, I believe that the presence of an unaccountable global authority imposing an unsustainable monetary system on the entire world is a step too far, but that is just my opinion. Leaving that aside, let us examine the IMF's arguments to see if they are persuasive. Do not be afraid of short-term volatility. As if we didn't already know, the IMF begins by reminding us that crypto assets are exceedingly volatile. According to the IMF, Bitcoin hit a top of $65,000 in April before plummeting to less than half that value just 2 months later. Yes, it is volatile. But here's where the IMF falls short. You will always lose money if you measure your investments in weeks and months. You need to zoom out and take a long-term look at it. The price of Bitcoin in yearly candles since 2009 has risen steadily, with barely a few years of decline. This is a totally different picture than the one painted by the IMF. Even with the latest slump, Bitcoin is still up around 300% in the last year. Taking the long perspective is critical. The IMF is attempting to frighten you by focusing solely on short-term volatility. Accumulation versus stable inflation. Following that, the IMF claims that crypto assets are unlikely to gain traction in countries with stable inflation. Inflation means that my money is losing its purchasing power. Its purchasing power is dwindling. I wouldn't call that stable, and I'm not willing to accept my money losing value at a regular rate determined by a central bank. To me, stability implies that my riches is not inflated away. The IMF goes on to suggest that even if a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin became legal tender, people would have no reason to save. They also claim that individuals would want to possess a global currency such as the dollar or the euro. They actually expect you to believe that individuals living in stable inflation would rather keep and save in fiat currencies, which are guaranteed to lose value, than invest in Bitcoin, which has a long track record of increasing in value over time. Which one would you pick? And how do people in Argentina, Lebanon, and Venezuela feel about hyperinflation and their currency exploding? Which one would they pick? Even if you live in a stable inflation regime, inflation is a total killer. After we left the gold standard in 1971, the US Consumer Price Index rose dramatically. Inflation had been quite modest until that moment, and it has since risen sharply. That is your riches being stolen over a long period of time. In comparison to other assets, the dollar has a ridiculously bad performance. According to this figure created by Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy, the dollar has lost 98% of its purchase power versus Bitcoin in just 5 years. In a similar calculation to the S&P 500, the dollar has lost 91% of its purchasing power over the last 30 years. When compared to Bitcoin and equities, your fiat currencies continue to lose value and underperform. Despite this, the IMF believes you would choose to hold dollars rather than Bitcoin, which provides a 239% annual return. That's insane. I'd gladly sacrifice some short-term volatility for the chance to generate real riches. In this case, I want to be fair to the IMF. I agree with one point in their post. They believe that crypto assets will gain popularity among the unbanked. Approximately 2 billion individuals do not have access to the financial system. That is a major issue. A bank account in El Salvador, where I just traveled, costs between $25 and $50 each month. That is roughly half of what most people make in a month, making banking prohibitively expensive. Bitcoin will be the key to gaining access to the financial system for the world's unbanked. Scare tactics. The IMF says crypto will fund crime and terrorism. The IMF is concerned about crypto threatening financial integrity, stating that crypto assets can be used to launder ill-gotten money, fund terrorists, and evade taxes in the absence of stringent regulation. This might endanger a country's financial system. They claim that the few $100 or $1,000 you have in crypto could be used to sponsor terrorism. Never mind the $400 million in cash that the Obama administration loaded into a plane and flew to Iran, one of the world's leading terrorist sponsors. No, they're more concerned with you hodling some Bitcoin. This concern trolling contradicts all facts. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists released a bombshell report titled Global Banks Defy U.S. Crackdowns by Serving Oligarchs, Criminals, and Terrorists in September 2020, revealing that trillions of dollars of dirty money flowed through big U.S. banks, doing business with corrupt regimes, organized criminals, and fraudsters. Not Bitcoin, but trillions of dollars being laundered to fuel criminal activity and who knows what else. However, the IMF believes you are the problem, that you are a criminal risk for retaining some Bitcoin. It's ridiculous. Productivity loss. According to the IMF, adopting Bitcoin would generate macroeconomic instability and lost output because households and firms would spend significant time and resources choosing which money to hold rather than engaging in productive activities. You'll spend the entire day agonizing over which currency to use. Sure. I'd like to discuss the concept of productive time. Productive time is stolen from you under a central bank-controlled fiat system of perpetual inflation and monetary debasement. With inflation, they literally take your time. For example, I recently investigated the impact of rapid home inflation on the average household over the years. I calculated how long it would take to save for a house. The end product was stunning. In 1950, saving for the purchase of a typical home took 2.3 years of your life, your effort. By 2020, the figure had more than doubled to nearly 7 years. Through inflation, the system has taken that time from you. The IMF, on the other hand, is unconcerned about the 4.5 years of your life you've wasted trying to keep up with house inflation. They're more concerned about the few minutes it might take you to decide whether to spend your money in dollars or Bitcoin. The truth is that if money were stable, you would become more productive, not less. Bitcoin endangers their power. After all of these unconvincing justifications, the IMF gets to the heart of the matter, acknowledging that monetary policy would lose bite. Central banks would lose their teeth if cryptocurrency became widely adopted. They wouldn't be able to dig in and hold their ground. They would not have complete influence over interest rates. That's great news. We want them to soften up. The free market, not central bankers, should determine interest rates. Interest rates should fall if there are more lenders than borrowers. Interest rates should rise if there are more borrowers than lenders. The central bank should play no part in this situation. But central banks do not want to relinquish power, which is why they are cracking down so hard on crypto and Bitcoin, warning you of their risks. We don't want our policy in the hands of mysterious supercoders, Senator Elizabeth Warren recently stated. Instead, we'd rather put our policies in the hands of opaque central banks? How has that worked out for us? The irony is that they are presenting our arguments for us. The central authorities' robust reaction to cryptocurrency indicates that we have surpassed the aim. They claim that cryptocurrency poses an existential danger to central banks. Because it is the only cryptocurrency that solves the problems that the existing system has created, Bitcoin is the only thing that can bring this entire corrupt monetary system down and the only method for us to build true, enduring prosperity. We hope you enjoyed watching and listening to this video. Please let us know your opinion in the comments area below. If you found our content useful, please like it and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more crypto-related contents.